Hey guys, welcome back. This is your host Phil from TheCase.com. Today we're going to learn a little something about LG Velvet. Alright, before we start, LG seems to be really proud of its design. LG emphasizes design a lot, so let's start with that. Firstly, on the front side, there's not much to see. Well, it's pretty much the same with any other phone in 2020. They all look alike. So let's shift a little to the rear. Instead of the camera island and 2x2 layouts, it's got something that LG calls the water drop design. It starts with the main lens on top, and then the droplets follow. Drop, drop, and then the LED flash. For me, it really never looked like a water drop, but it is a clean looking design with the flat back cover, only the main lens protruding ever so little from the main surface. I do like the overall look, but is it that much original? Compared to something like Galaxy Note 10 Plus, they share a bit of design cues here and there. And let's look at the rear. Sure, the Velvet looks classier, but is it radically different? Not really. It is, however, mil-spec certified and comes with IP68 weather protection. And even with all that, it still only weighs about 180 grams, which is pretty light in today's standard. Next, we move on to the display with the little notch on top. A lot of folks wishes for a punch hole camera instead of the notch on top, but I've never hated notches that much. And first for LG phone, it's got the curved edges left and right. Samsung calls this the edge display. A lot of manufacturers these days, especially the Chinese ones, are adopting this. Some people hate it, some others love it. I'm somewhere in the middle. I've never craved for one, but I don't hate it either. The only downside here is that it's not so easy to apply screen protector on it. For starters, there's an on-screen fingerprint reader, so you can use your finger to unlock the phone. It's pretty snappy and it's pretty accurate. As a modern panel, it comes with HDR10, but not the high refresh rate like 90 or 120 Hz. It's a good old 6-years panel. And for that, it's a pretty good panel. It's full HD+, not QHD+, but it's pretty bright, uniformity is fine, and the color reproduction is pretty accurate. And there are a lot of options starting from natural, vivid, cinema, and custom, where you can change the color temperature and even individual RGB levels along with the advanced options including saturation, hue, and sharpness, which is a very rare option to see. And since we're already kind of on the software side, let's take a look at the LG UX9 based on Android 10. Yes, it does look a lot like Samsung One UI. It's not original at all, but the older LG interfaces were a lot worse than this. They were harder to use, the menu items were scattered along in the random places, and it lacks a lot of features. Now this, although not original at all, is a whole lot easier to use. It's not a great software by any means, but I still like this better than the older one. But of course, the similarities seem a little excessive on the parts like where you scroll down a little more and the menu name gets enlarged. Or what about this night mode / dark mode animation? It looks exactly the same. You don't have to go this far. Now, for the hardware specs, let's start with the chipset, where it's got Snapdragon 765. Note that it's not the 765G like a lot of other phones, but the vanilla 765, which is very rarely seen. They're almost identical chipsets, but you're losing about 20% boost in the graphics performance. Now, combined with that, 8GB of LPDDR4X RAM and 128GB of UFS 2.1 storage doesn't sound like a lot. But the overall optimization makes it better than it sounds. Launching an app, closing it, launching another one, getting into level 1, 2, or 3 levels are pretty snappy. Sure, it's not ideal for hardcore gamers, but basic everyday tasks is just gonna be fine. There are cool little effects like blurring the background when pulling down the notification bar, and LG Pay shortcut from the side, not the bottom like Samsung Pay. This is a fairly new thing. And I think it's a pretty neat idea, so it doesn't clash with the gestures from the Android 10. And what about this? You can quickly press the power key twice to pull out the LG Pay card too. Something you can't change is the Google Assistant button on the left-hand side. You can disable it, but cannot change it to other apps or features like you can do with the Bixby button. And since we're already on it, there's a little notch hiding feature where it paints that black, but it only works with the LG's native apps. As soon as you get to the third-party app, even the Google ones, you're back to having the notch. And although the panel supports HDR10, it's not Netflix certified, so you cannot watch the Netflix HDR contents on this phone. But interestingly, just like the V60 ThinQ, it comes with the pen support. You cannot store it inside, it's not a Galaxy Note, but there is a Wacom-based pen that you can purchase separately, and there are interesting options like pen key shortcuts where you can assign features or an app to launch when you press a specific button. And that's not all, it also has dual screen support, so you can have another screen along your main one, although that also is sold separately. Now next up is the camera department. It's got 3 cameras, starting with the f1.8 of 48 megapixels wide angle, f2.2 8 megapixels of super wide angle, and f2.4 5 megapixels of depth sensor. Lack of telephoto lens is a bit disappointing, and they could have used a macro lens instead of the depth sensor like a lot of other phones, but they didn't. You can launch the camera app in a few different ways. My favorite one is to tap the volume down button twice. And the interface is pretty simple. On the left hand side corner, there's 4 to 3 button. You can tap on that to change the resolution. Well, resolution and the ratio. Right now it's set to 4:3, but there is a 48 megapixels mode as well. It's got pixel binning, meaning it's going to combine 4 pixels and output a 12 megapixel file to make the details and low lighting condition photos better. If you really want to, you can utilize the full 48 megapixels, but it's not suggested. So the photo quality is pretty good. For a starter, it's got a fairly big main sensor. It's got a 1/2 inch of a sensor. That's pretty big for a cell phone. So it generates good photos overall. The colors are good, the details are good. It's a little too sharpened, but not too much to annoy you. Unsurprisingly, under the low lighted conditions, the photos are still good. Many phones, even with the high resolution and bigger sensors, often miscalculate the color. So when the area is dark, it turns too yellow or too green, but this guy catches the color just right and generates accurate colors overall. Note that it doesn't come with the optical image stabilizer, so it's not as good, but again, this is a pretty fast f1.8 lens. I was generally fine with it. One of my few complaints was that the HDR quality isn't that good. When there's a backlight on the photo, it often got totally washed out. But to be fair, there are only a few companies that do it right, so I can't let this part go. So that's the wide angle, and there's a button that changes the angles. Tap it once and there's a 2x mode, and it doesn't come with the telephoto lens, so that's all digital. And tap it again for a 0.5 super wide angle. This is a 8 megapixel sensor, which is pretty low in 2020 standard. So look at a sample here. The details not only going to the outer circle, but even on the very center is a bit lost. Having the highest resolution is not always the answer, but 8 megapixels could use a little boost. A lot of phones these days are having 12 megapixels or even 20 megapixels for their super wide angle. And that complaint goes the same with the portrait mode, where it utilizes the 5 megapixels of depth sensor, and look at the results here. It's pretty mediocre. The outline processing, even though this is a very simple straight line bottle, is not done completely right. But I do like that there are a lot of blurring options here. And the super wide angle photo is especially bad in the low lighting conditions. This is not taken under complete darkness, but look at the noise levels around here. This is too much. And there's a little complaint on the video recording as well. There is the resolution option. Tap on that, there's 4K, no 60 FPS support, only full HD for that. And this is for the wide angle. For super wide angle, it doesn't even support full HD 60 FPS. You can only shoot up to full HD 30 FPS. Now you remember that I mentioned that it doesn't come with the optical image stabilizer. Instead, it utilizes the super wide angle for the Steadicam. And what did I say about the super wide angle camera? It's not that good. And you can tell that through the Steadicam footage over here. The stabilization itself is done pretty well, but the video is quite grainy. Things get much better once you tap 2x zoom, where it's gonna switch to the wide angle camera and crop from that. There are some interesting video recording options though. There's a time-lapse control where you can switch from 1x, 5x, 10x up to 60x speed or make it auto for your time-lapse video. The idea here is that you don't have to edit this on post. You can make things go fast or slow depending on the scene that you're looking at. I didn't find it particularly useful, but it's good to have. And under the video, there are recording options starting from basic and ASMR recording, meaning that it's got a sensitive microphone to stereo microphones built in, so you can catch even the slightest voice coming from you. And finally, there's a voice bokeh. Just like in the photo or video bokeh, it's going to emphasize on your voice and try to blur or cancel out the rest of the noise in the background. And last but not least, it's 2020, so it's got to have 3D AR sticker. It's going to apply some fun stickers on your face. Now, let's move on to the audio, where it's got the headphone jack in 2020. But unfortunately, it doesn't come with the LG's signature feature, the quad DAC. It does come with the DAC because it's got to make a sound since you can't understand the digital signals. But unlike the V6010Q, it doesn't come with the high quality Sabre quad DAC. It does come with the dual stereo speakers top and bottom, but unfortunately this one's not that good either. Lack of bass is understandable, that's one thing, but the treble is horribly loud. It squeaks a lot in the high volume. One of the ways to prevent that is to turn on the volume normalizer, but that's essentially limiting the volume. So if LG could fix this through a software update like tinkering with the equalizer, that'd be great. And as you can see, it's got a thing called the LG 3D Sound Engine. This is not particularly new. It comes with options like cinema, music, voice, or auto. And as it claims, it's going to provide with immersive 3D sound adapted to what you listen to. So basically, it's LG's own sound engine that replaces the previous DTS:X 3D sound. And this doesn't help the bass stereo speaker at all. Lastly, this part is going to depend on the region, but my South Korean unit had the FM radio built in. All right, lastly, let's look at the battery. It's got a pretty standard 4300 milliamps of cell built in. And with that, the screen on time lasts about 6 hours. Now, this is based on my usage. I surf the web a lot, I'm never on Wi-Fi, and this is with the full 5G connection. So if you're on the Wi-Fi network more, you're gonna get longer time. If you play 3D games more, then you're gonna get shorter time. With that same usage, turning off the 5G, switching to the 4G LTE network full time, gave me about an hour more. I figured that this is a smaller difference than I got from the other devices, notably the Snapdragon 865 devices. I guess this is because 765 is a one-chip combo where it's got the modem built inside a package, and 865 is not. Charging is done through the USB-C port on the bottom. The bundle charger is 16.2 watts. And with that, 30 minutes gave me 27%, an hour for 57%, an hour and a half for 86%, 2 hours for 99%, and 5 minutes past that gave me the full charge. Now the bundle charger is a quick charge variant. When I use my USB PD charger, 30 minutes gave me 38%, an hour gave me 71%. Look at the difference here. An hour for 57%, and here I got 71%. An hour and a half for 93%, an hour and 55 minutes for the full charge. The time required for fully charging the phone, there's only about 10 minutes of difference. But quickly topping up your phone for like 30 minutes, USB PD charger is a lot faster. Better get one of those. Through the glass back panel, it also supports fast wireless charging up to 9 watts, half an hour for 23%, an hour for 38%, an hour and a half for 52%, 2 hours for 66%, 2 hours and a half for 78%, 3 hours for 91%, 3 hours and 25 minutes for the full charge. This is on a slower side. Alright, so that was all the details about the LG Velvet. A lot of folks seem to be mad about all the features it lacks for a $750 phone. But I kind of see it in a different way, because this is a pretty standard package. Snapdragon 765G for the usual, but 765, the storage configuration, 48 megapixels of camera with the bonus cams, pretty standard battery capacity, and of course the 5G support. This is a standard package. There are lots of phones like this. Think about it. Xiaomi Mi 10 Lite, Redmi K30, Oppo Find X2 Lite, and ZTE Action 11 to just name a few. The only problem is that this is not a $750 package. This is a standard $450 package along with all these other phones, $500 at most. So why this? It's not like LG doesn't know what a flagship looks like. They do. They just built the LG V60 ThinQ, and that was a complete package of flagship. My theory here is that LG's engineers were tasked to build a good mid-ranger that looks nice, comes with the pretty standard specs, so they built one. Snapdragon 765, 48 megapixels of camera, 4300 mAh of battery, all the generic package. Then the management suddenly decides that they want to sell this for $750. But everybody knows that this is not worth that, so they just sprinkle a little goodies like the wireless charging and IP68 weather protection and mil-spec certifications or whatnot, and call it a day. So this video was me reviewing the Velvet as it's a $450 phone, because it's a pretty good one at that. Good screen, not the best, but okay software, pretty good camera, standard battery, it's relatively thin and light, and it's an LG. They're gonna update the software for, some time. But of course, this is not a $450 phone. This costs $750. And I don't have to tell you what is missing for $750. It has to have a better chipset, higher refresh rate for the screen, optical image stabilizer is a must, gotta have better camera configuration, 4K 60 frames per second, Wi-Fi 6, UFS 3.1 or 3.0 at least. I could go on and on and on what is missing, but just try to look at it in a different way. It's not a $750 phone that's missing a lot, but rather it's a good $450 phone with the wrong price tag. Because I think that's really what happened here. There's no way that LG built this as a $750 phone from the beginning. There must have been something from the management at the very end, near the launch. Alright, so that's what the LG Velvet actually is. It's a nice phone, just with the wrong price tag. Okay, that's it for today. If you have any questions, please write them down in the comment section below. You can always find us on Instagram and Facebook. We'll see you guys later. Ciao.